The fluorescent hospital lights buzzed overhead as I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in each square panel. Anything to avoid thinking about the emptiness inside me. Physical, emotional, complete. "Mrs. Patterson?" The nurse's voice was gentle. "Is there anyone we can call for you? Family? Friends?" I turned my head toward her, feeling the tears slide sideways into my hair. "My husband was just here. He said he'd be back." The nurse's expression shifted, something between pity and barely concealed anger. "The gentleman who left 30 minutes ago? He said he had a golf game he couldn't miss." The words hung in the air like toxic gas. Golf. I'd just lost our baby at 12 weeks, and my husband had left the hospital to play golf. "He said he'd be back," I repeated, because what else could I say? How else could I explain that the man I'd married 3 years ago had just walked out while I was bleeding out our future? The nurse squeezed my hand. "Honey, you deserve better than this." I nodded because my throat was too tight to speak. She was right. I knew she was right. When the patient advocate appeared an hour later with paperwork, I asked her a question I never thought I'd ask. "Do you have a notary on staff?" She looked confused. "Yes, but—" "Good," I said, reaching for my phone, "because I'm about to sign the best decision I've ever made. My name is Emma Patterson, or it was. 24 hours after losing my baby, I became Emma Rodriguez again, and I've never looked back. Let me tell you about James Patterson, the man I thought I'd spend my life with. We met at a friend's wedding 4 years ago. He was the best man, charming, handsome, attentive. He brought me champagne and made me laugh. By the end of the night, I had his number and a date for the following weekend. James was a commercial real estate broker, successful, driven, always networking. He wore expensive suits and drove a luxury sedan. He took me to nice restaurants and planned romantic weekend getaways. 6 months in, he proposed. A surprise dinner at the restaurant where we'd have our first date. Rose petals, a photographer he'd secretly hired. It was perfect. The wedding was beautiful. His parents paid for most of it. They were wealthy, generous, the kind of people who wrote checks without blinking. My parents, more modest but loving, contributed what they could. We honeymooned in Bali. For the first year, marriage was everything I'd hoped for. We bought a house in a nice suburb. I kept my job as a graphic designer, working from home mostly. James traveled for work, but always came back with gifts and stories. We talked about starting a family. Maybe in a year or two, we said, when we're more settled. But somewhere around year 2, things shifted. James started working longer hours, more weekend golf games with clients, more business trips that lasted 4 or 5 days. When he was home, he was distracted, always on his phone, always thinking about the next deal. I told myself it was normal. Marriage isn't always exciting. People get comfortable. This was just life. Then I got pregnant. We hadn't been trying, but we weren't preventing either. When I saw those 2 pink lines, I felt a joy so pure it hurt. I planned the whole reveal, a little box with baby shoes inside, waiting for him at dinner. When he opened it, his face went through several emotions. Surprise, yes, but also something else, something that looked uncomfortably like disappointment. "Wow," he said, "this is expected." "I know, but James, we talked about this. We said maybe soon, and—" "I know what we said. I just didn't think it would be this soon." He set the box down. "I have a huge deal closing in 3 months. This timing is really bad." Bad timing. That's what he called our baby. Bad timing. People have babies while working, James. Millions of people manage it. I know. You're right." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm just surprised. Give me a minute to process." He processed for 3 days, barely speaking to me. Then he seemed to accept it, or at least pretend to. He came to the first ultrasound, held my hand when we saw the tiny flicker of a heartbeat. For a moment, I thought everything would be okay. I should have known better. The cramping started early on a Tuesday morning. At first, I told myself it was normal. Growing pains, the baby moving, all the things the pregnancy books said could happen. By noon, I was bleeding. I called James immediately. "Something's wrong. I'm bleeding. I need to go to the hospital." Okay. How bad is it?" "James, I'm bleeding. I'm 12 weeks pregnant. This isn't normal." "Right, okay. I'm in the middle of a showing, but I can probably wrap up in an hour." "An hour? James, I need to go now." A pause. Can you call an Uber? I'm 40 minutes away and this client is ready to make an offer. This is a huge commission, Em. I hung up and called 911 instead. The ambulance ride was a blur. The ER doctors were kind but clinical. The ultrasound technician was silent, her face carefully neutral. I knew before the doctor came in to tell me. I knew from the absence of that beautiful, flickering heartbeat. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Patterson. There's no cardiac activity. You're having a miscarriage. The world tilted. I heard the words, missed miscarriage, DNC procedure, recovery time, but they floated past me like balloons I couldn't catch. Is your husband coming? The doctor asked gently. Yes, I said, automatically. He's coming. James arrived 2 hours after they were prepping me for the procedure. He rushed in, slightly out of breath, his tie loosened. Em, God, I'm so sorry. The traffic was insane, and I had to finish with the client. Are you okay? What's happening? I lost the baby, I said flatly. They're doing a procedure to remove everything in about 20 minutes. His face fell, genuine grief crossing his features. Oh, Emma, I'm so sorry. He held my hand when they wheeled me to the surgical suite. He kissed my forehead before they put me under. For a moment, I thought maybe this tragedy would bring us closer. Maybe losing the baby would remind him what mattered. When I woke up in recovery, he was there, sitting in the chair beside my bed, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I stirred. Hey, you're awake. How do you feel? Empty, I said, and meant it in every possible way. He squeezed my hand. The doctor said everything went well. You should be able to go home in a few hours. They want to monitor you for a bit. I nodded, too exhausted to speak. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, typed something quickly. James? Yeah? Thank you for being here. Of course. He looked at his phone again. Listen, I have to make a quick call. I'll be right back. He stepped into the hallway. I could hear his voice, muffled through the door. Business voice, not the soft tone he'd been using with me. 10 minutes later, he came back in, grabbed his jacket. Okay, so I have to run. Emergency with the Thompson deal. But your mom is on her way, right? She'll be here soon. I stared at him. You're leaving? It's just for a few hours. I'll be back to pick you up. This deal is falling apart, and if I don't get there... James, I just had surgery. I just lost our baby. I know, and I'm so sorry. But Em, this is a $2 million commission. I can't just blow it off. Your mom will be here any minute. You'll be fine for a few hours. Something in me fractured. Where are you going? He hesitated just for a second. I told you, the Thompson deal. Where are you going? His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and I saw the notification preview. Golf app. Tea time in 45 minutes. You're going golfing, I said. Not a question, a fact. It's a client golf game. It's where business happens, Em. You know this. Get out. Emma, get out of this room. Get out of this hospital. Get out of my life. You're being dramatic. You're emotional because of the procedure. I'm being clear for the first time in 3 years. Get out. He left, not apologetically, not sadly, but with obvious relief, like I'd given him permission to do what he wanted to do anyway. I lay there in the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, and felt something inside me harden into diamond. Not stronger, I'd always been strong, but sharper, clearer, unbreakable. The nurse who'd been in earlier came to check my vitals. She saw my face and knew immediately. He left, didn't he? Golf game, I said. Couldn't miss it. Honey, you deserve so much better than this. I know, I said, and for the first time, I actually believed it. My mother arrived 30 minutes later, her face pale with worry and fury. She'd heard about the miscarriage, but not about James leaving. When I told her, her hands started shaking. He left you here while you were recovering from losing your baby to play golf? Apparently, it's a client meeting. I don't care if it's a meeting with the president. You don't leave your wife alone in the hospital after she's just had surgery. Mom sat down hard in the chair James had vacated. Emma, sweetheart, I know you're going through hell right now, but I need to say something, and I need you to hear me. Okay? This isn't the first time he's let you down. Remember your birthday last year when he forgot and showed up 3 hours late? Or when your appendix burst and he didn't come to the hospital for 6 hours because he was finishing up at work? or the countless dinners, events, moments he's missed because something else was more important. I did remember. I'd made excuses for all of them. He's not going to change, honey, and you deserve someone who puts you first, especially in moments like this. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I know, Mom, I know. So what are you going to do about it? That's when I made the call that would change everything. Mom, can you find out if this hospital has a notary on staff? The patient advocate's name was Karen, a kind-faced woman in her 50s who looked like she'd seen every kind of family drama possible. You want to file for divorce? Right now? She looked at me with concern. Mrs. Patterson, you've just been through something traumatic. Maybe you should take some time to think about this. I have thought about it. For 2 years, I've been thinking about it without admitting I was thinking about it. I'm done. Do you have a lawyer? Not yet, but I can get one. Right now, I just need to start the process before I lose my nerve. Karen studied my face. Whatever she saw there convinced her. Okay, let me make some calls. Within an hour, she'd connected me with a family law attorney who did phone consultations for emergencies. The lawyer, a woman named Michelle Torres, listened to my story without interrupting. Do you have evidence of his neglect? Texts, emails, anything documented? I have 3 years of texts where he cancels plans, forgets important dates, prioritizes work over everything. I have today where he left the hospital while I was recovering from a miscarriage to play golf. Does that count? That counts. Emma, in California, we have no-fault divorce. You don't need to prove anything except that the marriage is irretrievably broken. But documentation helps, especially if he contests anything. Do you have separate finances? Mostly. Joint checking account, but we each have our own savings and retirement accounts. Good. That'll make this cleaner. Do you own property together? A house. We bought it 2 years ago. Both our names on the mortgage. You'll need to figure out whether to sell or whether one of you buys the other out, but we can work through all of that. Right now, let's start with the initial filing. I can have everything drawn up by tomorrow morning. Can you have them delivered to the hospital? You want to sign them there? I want to sign them before I go home, before I second-guess myself, before he comes back and apologizes and I forget how I felt when he walked out. Michelle was quiet for a moment. Are you sure about this? More sure than I've been about anything in years. Okay, I'll have everything ready by tomorrow morning. Get some rest, Emma. Tomorrow, you take your life back. The papers arrived 10 a.m. the next morning, delivered by a process server who handed them to me like they were treasure maps. In a way, they were. A map to a different future. My mother was still there, having spent the night in the uncomfortable hospital chair. She looked at the papers, then at me. Are you sure, honey? Read them with me, Mom. Make sure I'm not missing anything. We went through every page together. It was straightforward. Petition for dissolution of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences. No requests for spousal support. I made more than enough on my own. A proposal for dividing assets that was fair and clean. The hospital notary, a sweet older woman named Margaret, came to my room at 10:30. You understand what you're signing? She asked gently. I understand that I'm ending a marriage to a man who left me alone in the hospital after I lost our baby so he could play golf. Yes, I understand. She stamped the papers with a heavy metal seal. The sound was final, official, beautiful. Good luck, dear, she said. You're doing the right thing. James showed up at noon, carrying flowers and looking sheepish. Hey, Em, I brought you these. I'm really sorry about yesterday. I was an idiot. I should never have left. Can we start over? I looked at him, this man I'd loved, this man I'd built a life with, and felt nothing but relief that I was leaving. You're right, you were an idiot. But no, we can't start over. Come on, don't be like that. I made a mistake. Let me make it up to you. You can't make this up to me, James. You chose a golf game over being there when I needed you most. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. That's who you are. That's not fair. Here, I handed him the divorce papers. You've been served. His face went white. What? Emma, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I'm done. We're done. You can have your lawyer contact mine. Everything you need is in those papers. You can't just throw away 3 years of marriage because I made one mistake. It wasn't one mistake, James. It was 3 years of mistakes, of me being last priority, of you choosing work, golf, clients, anything over me. This was just the final one, the one that made it crystal clear. He stared at the papers like they might bite him. This is insane. You just had surgery. You're not thinking clearly. Actually, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. Please leave. Emma, leave, or I'll have hospital security escort you out. He looked at my mother, seeking an ally. She crossed her arms and stared him down with the fury of a protective mama bear. You heard my daughter. Get out. He left. For the second time in 24 hours, he walked away from me. But this time, I was walking away too. The divorce was final in 4 months, California's minimum waiting period. James didn't contest anything. I think he was too embarrassed once the full story got out. His mother called me once, crying, apologizing for her son. I didn't raise him to be like this, she said. I'm so sorry, Emma. I appreciated it more than she knew. I sold the house. James wanted to keep it, but he couldn't afford it on his own, and I wasn't going to keep paying into a mortgage on a house I'd never live in again. We split the equity evenly. I took my half and bought a smaller, cozier condo in the city. My place, my fresh start. I threw myself into work, building my freelance graphic design business. Without James's constant demands on my time and attention, I was more creative, more productive than I'd been in years. My client list grew, my income grew, my confidence grew. I started therapy, working through the grief of the miscarriage and the death of my marriage. My therapist helped me see patterns I'd been too close to notice, how I'd made myself small to accommodate James's ego, how I'd excused behavior I should never have tolerated, how I'd confused love with loyalty to a bad investment. You're not mourning the marriage you had, she said during one session. You're mourning the marriage you thought you'd have, the one you deserved. That's a different kind of grief. She was right. I wasn't sad about losing James. I was sad about losing the dream of a partner who showed up, who cared, who chose me first. But I was also learning that I could be my own first choice. That was powerful. I ran into James 6 months after the divorce was final. I was having coffee with friends when I saw him across the shop. He looked older, tired. He saw me too, hesitated, then walked over. Hey, Em. Hi. James. Can I talk to you, just for a minute? My friends looked at me. I nodded. It's okay, I'll be right back. We stepped outside into the cool evening air. You look good, happy. I am. I wanted to apologize, really apologize, not just the half-assed thing I did at the hospital. What I did was unforgivable, leaving you there after you lost our baby so he could play golf. I think about it every day. I was a terrible husband, Emma. You deserved so much better. I looked at him and felt nothing but a distant sort of pity. Yes, I did. But thank you for saying it. I've been in therapy, trying to figure out why I'm like this, why I sabotage good things. Turns out I have a lot of issues with my dad, with masculinity, with defining myself by success. Trailed off. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that I know I screwed up, and I'm sorry. I appreciate that, James. I really do. I hope therapy helps. Are you seeing anyone? That's not really your business anymore, but I'm happy. That's all you need to know. He nodded. I hope we can be friends someday. I don't think so, I said honestly. I don't wish you ill, but I also don't want you in my life. I've moved on, and you should too. Right. Well, take care of yourself, Emma. You too, James. I walked back to my friends and we finished our coffee, laughing about something completely unrelated to my ex-husband. He sat alone at his table for a while longer, then left. I didn't watch him go. A year after signing those divorce papers in the hospital, I was in a completely different place. Different home, different life, different version of myself. I'd learned that I was stronger than I thought, that I could survive losing a baby and losing a marriage in the same breath and come out the other side whole. I'd learned that being alone was better than being lonely in a relationship, that my own company was enough. I'd learned that the right person doesn't make you feel like you're competing with their golf game for priority. The right person shows up, always. I haven't found that person yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I'm not in a hurry. I'm building a life I love, with or without a partner. Sometimes people ask if I regret signing those papers so quickly, if I should have given James another chance, gone to counseling, tried harder to save the marriage. My answer is always the same: no. Because in that hospital room, I had a moment of absolute clarity. I saw who James was, not who I hoped he'd be, not who he promised he'd become, but who he actually was. A man who could walk away from his wife in her darkest moments because something else was more important. That clarity was a gift, and I wasn't going to waste it. I think about the baby sometimes, the life that could have been. I grieve what I lost, but I also know that baby deserved better than a father who saw them as bad timing, and I deserved better than a husband who couldn't be there when it mattered most. So I signed those papers. I took my life back. I chose myself, and I've never regretted it for a single second. If you've ever had to choose yourself when someone else wouldn't choose you, you're not alone. Share your story below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about finding strength in your darkest moments.